Right, so the meeting should be recording now. Should have received that. And I will share the presentation. Right, can everyone see the presentation?
Yeah.
Let's have a look. And then let's do the slideshow. Okay, can everyone see this? A full screen for them?
Yeah.
Is that helping? Sorry, I can't see you, so well, because I'm in the presenter mode. So, but I'll come back to you all. Welcome everybody to the Environment and Energy Network meeting. It's the third meeting, so it's a relatively new network, but it's great that you're all here. I'll just give a quick overview of the agenda. I think there's some people waiting in the lobby. Ray has come up.
Yeah, I can't see. Oh, hang on, let's have a look.
I've just admitted Laura Gilmore.
I was going to say I couldn't see anything come up.
If I see anything else, I'll just click on it.
So this is just an overview of what we're doing today. I thought we'd give a quick overview again for those who haven't joined us before, and what the Environment and Energy Network is, a brief overview of fuel poverty, and then I'm pleased to welcome Anya Ruth, Campaigns Officer from Citizens Advice, that's National Citizens Advice, to talk to us, giving it big energy saving winter in particular, go through the minutes of the last meeting, a policy update, a consultations update, a funding update, future programme dates, news, and round robin questions and discussion. I've left the round robin to the end this time because we couldn't get through all of the details, but I'm going to whiz through some of them and leave you to read some of the slides in more detail, which I'll share later. Okay, so who am I? I'm Elizabeth Goodchild. For those who don't know me, I'm Strategic Partnership Manager at BBSC. You're welcome to link in with me on LinkedIn. What is the Environment and Energy Network? It's here for networking, information, funding, policy strategy, research, peer learning, training resources, volunteering. There's quite a lot there. Engaging the wider sector through Engage for Good, linking with BVSC Employment and Skills Network with the green economy, and linking with Greener Birmingham. We want to develop relationships with public and private sector partners and collaboration on projects, services, activities, events and actions, and have a collective voice on campaigns and anything else that we decide that we want it to be or do. I'm going to give you a very quick overview on fuel poverty in Birmingham City, just to kind of give a little bit of background before Anya talks. So 21.2%, or over 92,000 households across Birmingham City local authority area are fuel poor, according to the Low Income, Low Energy Efficiency Indicator. And that's 2019 data that's been published this over the last year. And that is the highest percentage of households in the West Midlands. I've given the figures by constituency. I'm not going to read them all out. But if you want to know more about the whole approach the government's taking to fuel poverty, you might want to look at the Sustainable Warmth Strategy, which was set out by government last year, which sets out their ambitions on fuel poverty. So that kind of gives an overview of kind of the need for addressing fuel poverty and addressing this on multiple levels. And that leaves me in nicely to Anya. Are you there?
Yeah, I am. Thanks so much, Elizabeth.
Sorry if I've pronounced your name wrong. You might want to sort of repeat your name to everybody. Sorry. Thanks for coming along.
Thanks everyone for having me. I'm really happy to come along to the meeting today. Thanks for the invite. So my name's Anya and I'm a Campaigns and Public Affairs Officer at Citizens Advice. So that's National Citizens Advice, not one of the local offices. And I've been working on energy campaigns and delivering our kind of national consumer campaign across England and Wales for the past 2 years. So I was just invited here today to chat a little bit about the campaign, Citizens Advice, kind of wider energy advocacy work, and maybe share kind of some of what we're doing with all of you, and also kind of the materials that we've developed for our energy campaigns. So yeah, on to the next slide, please. So the reason we campaign on energy is that we're the official consumer body for energy. So this means that we use the research and evidence from people who contact our advice service every day to try and understand kind of the most common problems that are facing consumers across Great Britain. We also ask the government to put consumers at the heart of their plans to reach net zero. We do a lot of work on net zero targets. The campaign that I'm delivering, which Elizabeth mentioned, was the Big Energy Saving Campaign. So this is a national annual campaign to help people cut their fuel bills and to get the financial support that they're entitled to. We deliver this in partnership with the Energy Saving Trust, who are an energy efficiency company or charity. And then Citizens Advice also runs the Big Energy Saving Network, which is an outreach initiative aiming to engage and empower individuals to make informed decisions on how to cut their energy bills, how to afford to keep their homes warm in winter. So there are 266 local citizens advice organisations across England and Wales. There are even more kind of local offices on top of that. And then there are over 40 local community organisations who, separately from Citizens Advice, are part of our Big Energy Saving Network. So our regional reach is great and kind of helps us to reach consumers who we've identified as being particularly vulnerable or at risk of fuel poverty or debt. So this is kind of an overview of our wider campaigns work, which I don't work on myself. I thought it'd be helpful to give it a context. So when Citizens Advice campaigns on net zero, essentially it's that every single household in the UK will need to make low carbon changes to their homes in order to achieve the government's ambitious net zero target. But at the moment, the process of making these home improvements is costly and complicated, and it's quite a confusing landscape. And so we ask the government to put consumers at the heart of their plans to reach net zero, to increase public understanding of why changes to homes are needed and how they can do that, to provide information, reliable information to help people make the decisions that they need to, and then also to offer practical support in case things go wrong and support to actually implement those changes. We also recently called for the government and Ofgem to kind of learn from the mistakes that have led to the energy market crisis that we find ourselves in, and to implement reforms and keeping the consumers' interests at heart. It's all kind of about representing the interests of the clients that come to Citizens Advice to get advice on their energy bills. So the next slide, please. So in terms of the Big Energy Saving Campaign, which I deliver, we have identified 3 kind of target audiences that we wanted to reach this year. Because last year we switched to a digital campaign due to COVID-19. Big Energy Saving Week used to just run over 1 week in January, and that would kind of engage face-to-face events all over the country, helping people switch supplier, switch their tariff, apply for warm home discount, etc. And then we couldn't do that anymore because of COVID. So we switched the campaign to Big Energy Saving Winter, which ran over 3 months and kind of focused on a more digital delivery model. So looking at social media campaigns, digital outreach events, partnering with other community organizations and network to kind of reach their networks and audiences. And a lot of the feedback that we received from our delivery partners was that we are kind of missing out a large chunk of people who often would most benefit from energy advice, but that they don't normally access information online. And so we decided to kind of pivot our campaign this year to make sure that we're addressing that gap and making sure that we're reaching those audiences. When we're looking at people who are either experiencing fuel poverty or at risk of experiencing fuel poverty, we looked at kind of families with young children, single parent families, people who are aged 65 and older, particularly older people who are less likely to look for advice online. And then we looked at geographically at regional areas with the highest fuel poverty rates, such as North West England and West Midlands. And then when we talk about fuel debt, we're talking about people who may owe money to their energy supplier, not know how to get out of it, not know how to manage their debts, and not know about the grants, schemes and repayment plans which are available. So we felt it was important to make sure that we're reaching kind of a targeted audience with the specific information. And so we focused this year on developing our campaign materials to reach those specific groups. Onto the next slide, please. So in terms of the kind of energy market collapse as suppliers are going bust and the cost of living crisis that we're facing, we kind of knew that we should adapt our campaign. So we integrated the normal advice that we offer, rather than having a standalone big energy saving week or winter. We said all year round we're going to respond to changes in the market, such as suppliers going bust, such as the price cap rising in April, and deliver advice to the groups that we've identified through our normal advice channels. And kind of reassuring them that they can always turn to their local citizens advice or to our consumer helpline or to our debt helpline in order to figure out what support would suit them in their current situation. So we're going to continue to run this campaign throughout the entire year, and this will give us kind of that flexibility to respond to external events. And we also have decided to use this kind of opportunity to promote advice that saves both energy and money in terms of cutting down your bills through energy efficiency. And some of the reasons for this is that we used to focus the campaign on switching supplier or tariff to get the best deal, because you could potentially save hundreds of pounds a year. However, that's not very helpful advice at the minute, because it's very difficult to switch and very difficult to make savings. And so, yeah, we've kind of pivoted our advice away from switching to more kind of immediate steps that people can take. And, you know, obviously we're looking forward to seeing what the government announces in February in terms of additional support following from the price cap announcement. So the next slide, please. So we ran some workshops with our energy advisors, with delivery partners, both from local citizens advice and kind of community organisations, trying to understand what resources and approaches would help us to deliver these messages throughout the year. And so we've taken kind of a few different channels. One is advertising. So we're going by like local radio ads, trying to reach younger audiences through Spotify ads, putting kind of advertorial inserts in regional publications across areas where there's high fuel poverty, and then promoting paid social media advertising on Facebook. And we've also offered digital resources to delivery partners, such as a local press pack about how to get on local radio, that type of thing. And then also a social media pack that has a lot of graphics and draft tweets promoting the energy advice messages. We also focused on printed materials. So we've created advice booklets. We're translating these into community languages, and we also have easy read versions available in terms of trying to make these materials a bit more accessible. And we have posters as well. It's worth mentioning that the campaign is completely bilingual in Welsh and English. So there's Welsh language materials available. And we're also creating kind of animated videos, just trying to make sure that we have lots of different formats to engage different audiences. And then we're also establishing some partnerships. So an example of that is the Trussell Trust, who deliver food bank parcels to homes, low-income homes across the UK. And we're putting our kind of advice leaflets in the food parcels, so that we're hoping to reach kind of appropriate audiences that way. And just onto the last slide, please. These are some examples of our campaign materials. So basically, this could be, you know, leaflets, booklets, GIFs, easy read documents. We have a whole range of materials, both physical and digital. I'm really happy to share those materials with any organizations or individuals on this call who are interested. I can also order printed materials to be delivered to your address if you think they'd be helpful. And we have digital versions of everything as well. So I'll share my email address in the chat box for this call. But yeah, please do get in touch if you're interested in any of these materials. The leaflet on the left is kind of a larger booklet that has a lot of different information in terms of like meter readings, what to do if your supplier goes bust, how to contact your local authority to see if they have any grants, what to do if you owe your supplier money, that type of thing. And then the leaflet on the right is a smaller leaflet that focuses specifically on energy efficiency tips to help you cut your fuel bills. Yeah, so I think that was kind of, sorry if I went on too long rambling, but that was an overview of what we're doing, who we're trying to reach, and how we're doing it. But yeah, any questions or any kind of feedback or comments as well would be totally welcome.
That's really great. Thank you. I've come out of that view so I can see anybody to see if you've got any questions for Anya that you would like to know about that. If not, we'll be sharing everything through the minutes and the resources that I usually send out to everyone. Anyone got any questions?
Yeah.
So,
I've got my hand raised.
Yeah,
right, Brian, I can see you.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for that. That was a really good presentation. And I'm really I'm really quite impressed with what you're doing. It's quite heartwarming to know that there is this support out there for increasing numbers of people who are experiencing fuel poverty. Just a couple of things. Are you collecting any data around the ethnicity of the people, your client groups? Because I mean, I anticipate you are, but if you're not, it would be really useful to record ethnicity, because I suspect that in the National Food Poverty Group, that people from ethnic minorities are probably overrepresented in that group of people, and it would be useful to be able to establish whether that's true or not. It'd be a good bargaining, lobbying tool in the future. And the other thing I'm interested in is to what extent you're able, do you think, to influence government? I mean, they've got all these huge price hikes coming our way, and I personally don't have any faith in government to do anything for people living in poverty, but that's not to say that we shouldn't try, and I would think that the Citizens Advice Bureau does what it can to influence government and get them to come up with new and better policies and provide more assistance to people.
Thank you. Those are both really good questions, which I'll do my best to answer. As I mentioned before, I mostly work on delivering this campaign, so I don't work in kind of the policy analysis side on our energy. I know that we do collect data on kind of all demographics, including ethnicity of our clients. And across our policy areas, we try and look at the disproportionate impact of some of government policies on disabled people, ethnic minorities, kind of older people, younger people, etc. In terms of our energy campaigns, we're not focusing targeted information on ethnic minority groups right now, but it is something that we're kind of trying to monitor what the impacts are. Our data isn't always perfect, so there's not a really clear picture of that at the minute, but it's something that we're continuing to look at and trying to improve as well. And I think you're right, 100%. It's really important to be able to capture that data, and I think sharing that with other organizations as well to support their lobbying efforts is a good idea. It's something that I'll definitely kind of take back to the policy team. In terms of your second question, like to what extent will we influence the government? The age-old question of if any of the influencing work that we do makes a significant impact. I hope so. I know that Citizens Advice at the moment is working on a cost of living campaign, which is looking at, basically, we see across our clients a cost of living crisis, and energy bills is a massive part of that. And we see that if a family is claiming universal credit, the proportion of their universal credit that they have to spend on their fuel bills is skyrocketing. And we are trying to take targeted action to share our data with the government and to make recommendations on steps that they can take to improve the situation for consumers and for families and people across the UK. We're currently doing kind of a week of action. So we've got a lot of blogs, tweets, kind of directed at policymakers, civil servants, MPs, and local citizens advice offices have been contacting their MPs all week, writing letters and tweeting at them to try and keep the pressure on the government to take targeted action around the price cap increase. So I think it's hard to know what the government's going to announce, and it does also seem like a lot of the organizations and think tanks working in the energy space all have kind of different recommendations, whether that's about funding via local authorities or increasing or extending warm home discount and keeping that open for longer, or more specific targeted payments via universal credit mechanisms. So it's hard to know what route the government will go down, but I know our organisation is continuing to lobby to lobby BEIS and to lobby MPs and civil servants as well. So definitely keep an eye on our website for kind of our policy reports and press releases around that if you'd like to keep up to date.
Yeah, okay, great, thank you. Can I put this stuff, I do some work with Climate Action Network West Midlands, and we try and get a newsletter out, so I can put this, I can put these campaigns in our newsletter. You'd be okay with it?
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. I'll put my email in the chat, and if you can email me, I'll send you some content for the newsletter.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll also be putting something out to everybody as well, so you feel free to cover it in everybody's newsletters if they want to. I've got New Starts with a hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I noticed that you work with the Trussell Trust, but there are as many independent food banks, many of whom are part of the Independent Food Alliance network, and I didn't know if you'd sort of spoken to them, because they produce Cash First leaflets as well. In various areas. I know Birmingham's got a Cash First leaflet which tries to talk about how people can maximise the money that they have, so they've got enough money to live. And I just wondered whether you thought about, I can pass you the contact for them, because obviously, I mean, we run an independent food bank as well as a furniture bank, and I didn't know about these leaflets. It'd be great to put them in our food parcels. We want to help people as much as we can. Even people that we're providing furniture to free of charge, we could include that sort of information, because it's a huge issue. I know I've just changed my I've just changed my tariff at home, and my gas and electric's is doubled. That's the best offer I could get, So it's like, even for people who are, at the moment okay and thinking they're okay, I think this is a huge problem, and I think there's a whole load of people out there who up to now have not been worried about fuel poverty, and suddenly might be going, you know what, I'm not going to have the heating on in the morning. I'm just going to have it on for a couple of hours in the evening. So I think it's that sort of issue. But I'm happy to send you their email address, and then perhaps you can get in touch with them to see whether we can push that out through the independent food banks as well.
Yeah, that's a really great suggestion. I think often going through grassroots kind of community networks and organizations as well, like, people will have really good relationships with their communities, and they'll be able to reach kind of a wider group. So I think that's a great suggestion. Thank you. And yeah, I agree on, I mean, the thing is that even giving people tips to cut their energy bills by £100 a year by energy efficiency measures, their bills might rise by £500, £700. So, it is really, it's just a really difficult time, and we are entering into a crisis. And I think a lot of people, kind of myself included, my social circle, don't really understand how significant the price cap rising is going to be and what that impact is going to be. So I think any kind of work that we can do on demystifying that as well is helpful. But yeah, I'm happy to send over the kind of variety of resources that we have, and then you can kind of decide which one you think would be most appropriate to include, or a combination of things.
Brian, you've got your hand up. Is that a redundant hand, or is that a new hand?
No, it's redundant now.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else? Any more questions? Or okay. And thank you so much for coming along. I know you have to whiz off now, but if anyone's got any more questions you want to pass them on to her, I'm happy to do that. Or likewise, sort of link in anyone who needs to be linked in. Right. So moving on, are we okay to move on to the next item?
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so very much for coming.
Thank you.
I thought I'd put Anne on first because she couldn't stay for the whole meeting, so I'll just go back to the minutes. Oh, right, is it coming up? Is that right? Can you see that, or maybe I'll come out with that view because it's probably not. Can you see that slide, or should I come out and do a different view?
We can see it, Liz.
Is it too small?
Yeah, it's not full screen size, but we can see.
I'll come out of that because it doesn't seem to be the best full screen size. Okay, is that better? that better?
It's slightly bigger, but I think it's fine.
I can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, so just if we can move on to the minutes of the last meeting, they're available on the BVSC website. I don't know if anyone wants to look at them there, or shall I pull them up for us now? Maybe if I pull them up, that might be easier. Right. Right. Kobe is into. Right, if I go into the link, maybe that'll be easier to people to see. Right, so this is the page where I put all of the resources. So if you want to know in future where all the resources are, and they've got all the previous minutes of the meeting, etc. So if we look at the minutes of the last meeting on the 14th, we can go through the actions. First action is agreed that the Commonwealth Games is something that could be discussed at a focus for future meetings. I have been in contact with Jess Fiddler from Commonwealth Games, who is the head of sustainability, and I've asked for a meeting, so I'm just waiting for her to get back to me. I'll have to chase that up. And then action, SS will do an invite at some stage when testing out One Planet Living development work with community groups to see if there are some groups that would like to try this out. Simon, are there any updates on the One Planet Living development work you want to give, or is that something that you'll bring along to a future meeting? Simon, I can't hear you.
For those that know me, they're probably quite grateful. Yeah, I can bring it along to a future meeting. We're currently just trying to put something on the website so we can test it with individuals. Mm-hmm. But I can come back to you at a later meeting saying here's the offer, this is what we can do. Okay, great, thank you. And then action GB to drop Eco Birmingham Grow Organic a line. SS will see if their Eco Birmingham's community garden team can support. Has anyone got any updates on that?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not sure if that's happened. I haven't received anything. I don't know if it's gone to another member of our team. Okay, so maybe there's a kind of reminder to have a look at that for everyone involved. Again, I've got to share Jess Fiedler's contact details with New Starts. I think part of it is I want to have that meeting with Jess first to find out where they're going with things. And you know, there's an opportunity there. New Starts to get in touch with SS as they were refurbishing their office furniture to go and replace. Is there any update on that, New Starts and Simon? I haven't heard anything at all. Okay. It was just before Christmas. Okay, yeah, I think because Christmas has been, you know, there's obviously not that long ago really, because of Christmas. So maybe we need to come back to that. Action, e.g. to invite Paul McGrath for the City Council the next meeting as he's available. I got the name wrong, but I did get in contact with the right person. They're leaving the council. They've told me that there's someone else that's taking the issue on board, and I've emailed them and asked them to come along to this meeting, but they haven't as yet responded, so that's for me to chase up and see if they can come to the next meeting. So action, JT to send list of organisations to EG to extend the reach of the Environment and Energy Network in the interim. That's been done. Jules has sent those through to me, so I just need to take that forward. Action, JT to provide RW with introductions on those working on climate jobs, green economy from campaigning and TU point of view. Has that gone forward?
Yes, I've received information almost immediately after the last meeting, so that's been completed.
Right. And then future program action all. If there's anything people want to add to future program not hit on here, let me know and add it to the agenda for future meetings. So again, that's like an ongoing action really. If anything that you want to raise, and let us know. And then again, action all to see if there's anything we want to prioritise, anything that should be included. Read the environment and energy net awareness calendar. Haven't heard back from anyone in particular, so maybe that's something that's kind of again on an ongoing basis. Action EG asked if we all wanted to have an environment themed mini RIS based on environmental justice. I won't discuss that now. I'll raise that again later on in this meeting. And then action all to let EG know if any of these dates suggested for future meetings are not good. I've not heard from anyone, so unless anyone wants to say now, I'll go with the calendar of future meeting dates. Is that okay? Okay. Is there anything else people want to raise on this? Is everyone happy that they're more or less an accurate representation of the meeting?
Can I just query, could somebody tell me briefly what the Breath project is?
Right. So I'll just tell you what's happening. I'm actually putting some information on behalf of somebody who can't make the meetings. So I don't want to distract you from where you are at the moment, Liz. And I was going to come back and explain this at the end of the meeting under any other business.
Yeah,
Okay.
cool. Okay.
All right. So if we're okay, we'll move. We'll say that those minutes are fine, and we'll accept those and move on. Okay, I'll share my presentation again. Okay. So going on to a policy update. I'm not going to go through every single one of these slides because I will have the thing, but I'll give you an overview and then you can read the slides in your own time. I'm going to give a quick environment and energy policy overview, go through the UK's third climate change risk assessment, talk about the police crime sentencing and courts bill, ministerial statement on wholesale energy prices, the LUH building regulations amendments, Bayes Heatnext works, building a market framework consultation response, report from the Resolution Foundation on energy bills, government funding at more zero emission vehicles, Environmental Audit Committee Water Quality and Rivers report, Green Alliance closing UK Green Skills Gap report, and HS2 net zero carbon plan. Is there anything else that should be on this list that people want to raise? I'll take that as a no and move on. Sorry, I can't see where everyone is when I'm presenting. So if you want to put anything in the chat, then we can pick it up.
Brian's got his hand up. I don't know if it's again another read from.
Is that a redundant hand or a new hand, Brian?
No, it's not. It's an old one. Sorry.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I've lowered it. Sorry.
That's all right. Okay, thanks. Okay, so a quick policy overview. Again, I'm not going into all of this, but just a reminder that Policy Exchange do a really good energy environment policy timeline where there's like links to what policy has been happening in the energy environment world and kind of what is expected over the next year. The link is there if anyone wants to take a look at it. I'm not picking up everything on there. I'm just picking up some of the things that I want to kind of highlight. Firstly, which isn't on there because it's just come out, is the UK's third climate change risk assessment. So that was published yesterday, and the conclusion really is that more faster actions required and more needed to build that into decisions that have long-term effects, particularly like housing or infrastructure, to avoid risks. And that's a 5-year assessment delivered under the Climate Change Act and following close work with the Climate Change Committee. And it identifies 61 risks that climate change poses to multiple parts of society and the economy. For 8 risks prioritised for action over the next 2 years, economic damages of climate change could exceed 1 billion per year each by 2050, with a temperature rise of 2 degrees C. And the cost of climate change to the UK is estimated to be rising to at least 1% of GDP by 2045. 8 priority risks have been identified. I'm not going to read them all through. You can have a look at them. I'll just point out that they're not necessarily just environmental ones. We've already mentioned food supply, that could be an issue, and also human health, well-being and productivity from increased exposure to heat in homes and other buildings. So obviously these risks impact the wider society as well as the environment. Just want to note that Baroness Brown of Cambridge, chair of the Climate Change Committee, Adaptation Committee, said that building resilience is a mammoth task and we're falling well behind. Okay, so that's one thing to note for anyone who wants to look into the details of that. Secondly, Brian mentioned this before we sort of properly started the meeting, but the Police Crime Sentencing and Courts Bill was voted against in the House of Lords yesterday by 261 to 166. That's relevant to this group because it includes changes on protest rights proposed by the government, partly in response to environmental activists who've blocked roads and stopped printing presses and glued themselves to trains, etc. Now, obviously, those protest rights would have stopped wider protest rights, not just those particular issues. Now, the bill's now going to go back to the Commons for MPs to have their say, and it cannot become law until both houses agree. So peers voted against a number of measures. I won't read them all, and they voted for new amendments to the bill. So if anyone's interested in that, there's a link. There's a link there. I would say, it's not that bill hasn't been killed completely because it still needs to go back to the Commons for MPs. So they'll be trundling on for a while, probably toing and froing between them. But it's good that the Lords has recognised the issues with it. Okay, so the next slide. I've grouped together a few things to do with energy that Anya mentioned, as particularly around wholesale energy prices. So in December, the Secretary of State for BEIS published a written ministerial statement about the rise in wholesale gas prices and what the government response would be. I think the key things here is that they're going to publish the energy retail market strategy. There's going to be several steps that they're going to publish as well, including transparency of carbon content in energy products and responses. So the government is taking action and it will take action, but there is a bit of a way to go on this. I think one of the things in terms of fuel poverty in particular, there'll be a fairness and affordability call for evidence on the options for energy levies and obligations, and they want to support green choices with a view to taking decisions this year. Another energy related policy is the Department for Levelling Up have published amended building regulations for ventilation, overheating and conservation of fuel and power. And they will set the standards for energy performance of new and existing buildings, with the guidance changing from the 15th of June this year. I think for us, it's relevant for domestic settings, but also relevant if you think about your community buildings, and if you're wanting to do any building work going forward, what the energy regulations will be relating to that. So there's links there if you want to have further look. I just quickly mentioned the BEIS Heat Networks Building Market Framework Consultation Response. Basically, heat networks is one way of addressing alternative energy, but there has been no regulator or kind of way forward for how that will be done. So the government has appointed Ofgem as a heat networks regulator, and an energy ombudsman will take on the role, and Citizens Advice as the consumer advocacy body. I think there's key things about, how the cost of that is going to impact consumers. And then the Resolution Foundation has produced a paper on averting a looming energy bill crisis, talking about the fuel stress, some of the things that Anya mentioned, and then its call for reforming benefit system and warm homes discount, but also changing the way that bills are paid and taxes, social environmental levies are paid from bills to general taxation that they're suggesting, but primarily calls for incentivizing renewable energy and home insulation. I'm kind of moving away from the kind of general energy to zero emission vehicles. So the government wants to make changes to the plug-in vehicle grant scheme to enable funding to go further, making the switch to electric vehicle. They're changing how much money they're going to provide for that. I won't go into all of that. You can have a look at that yourselves. And then moving on to sort of a biodiversity issue. The Environmental and Audit Committee has published a water quality in rivers report, which found that poor water quality in rivers is a result of multiple failures. Only 14% of English rivers meeting good ecological status, with pollution and single-use plastics contributing to that. And not a single river in England receiving a clean bill of health. They made many recommendations. I think key for us is that they want to support citizen science and water citizenship. So that's 2 examples of particular areas where the voluntary community, faith, social enterprise sector can support water quality. So you can have a look at that if you're interested in that. We spoke a little bit previously about green skills. The Green Alliance has produced a report on closing the UK's green skills gap, which found that every major sector in the UK needs to close a significant skills gap to reach net zero. And that sectors with the most pressing emissions reductions by 2030 face the most immediate skills shortages, including housing and transport. They've made a number of recommendations, which you can read through, and I've put those down there. I think particularly for us, that they're looking for public-facing campaign, and they're looking for new green courses. So there's some opportunities there going forward. Then with regards to sort of regional issue, the HS2 has produced a net zero carbon plan. They committed to power new high-speed trains with zero carbon energy from the outset, and they've got various different plans to do that. You can have a look at that if you're interested in what they've got to say on that. But that's kind of a kind of policy overview. Quickly before I move on to the next section, has anyone got any particular questions they want to raise on any of those? I would take it there's a lot to sort of take in for that, and you might want to go away and have a look at those in depth, but I just try to provide a brief summary of some of those things that are happening. Anyone got any questions, or shall I move on?
No, that was very good. Let's move on. Yeah, I'm happy to move on, but thank you. That was a good summary.
Okay, great. So move on to the next slide. Okay, so there's various consultations that you might be interested in, either like answering or just knowing that they exist and what's going on with them. So BEIS have published a consultation on recovering the cost of heat networks regulation, which I kind of mentioned before about heat networks. DEFRA, a consultation on biodiversity net gain regulations and implementation. So they want to know what you think about how biodiversity net gain will work in practice. And then Birmingham City Council have got an electric vehicle charging survey. So they're asking views on Birmingham's charge point strategy to understand charging infrastructure required by residents. They've also got a communication and community engagement survey. Now that is not specifically to do with the environment, but it asks for views on how the council communicates and engages, particularly given the 2022 Commonwealth Games. So if you've got particular views on that, you might want to respond. They're also got, as part of the prep work for Birmingham 2022, they're going to be installing some electrical infrastructure at Boldmere Gate, Sutton Park. So if you're interested in that particular green space, then you might want to respond. And then just as a kind of a response rather than something they're asking for, they've provided feedback to their publicising fly tipping and environmental crime cases policy, which was approved by the Cabinet member with effect from this January. Are there any other consultations that anyone's aware of that you want to raise, or shall I move on?
Well, just to say briefly that Climate Action Network West Midlands and the wider COP26 coalition West Midlands, we developed a petition which went to Andy Street, the West Midlands Mayor, a petition demanding that they move towards, that they be more ambitious and try to aim for zero carbon rather than net zero carbon, because as we know, net zero carbon involves a lot of smoke and mirrors. But we also demanded in the petition that they consult with the wider public and with those organisations in Birmingham who are actively trying to achieve change through climate change, and you know, organisations such as Friends of the Earth, the COP26 Coalition, CanWIM, Footsteps, and others. You know, we have been demanding through this petition seats at the table and for more and better consultation, and they've agreed to it. So we're waiting to hear from them now. They'll listen. They'll give us an opportunity to speak to the contents of the petition in March, but they've also offered to meet us to discuss our concerns and our wishes for greater inclusion in the decision making of the West Midlands Combined Authorities. So that's really good news. So
okay, so if you could keep us in the loop on that, that'd be appreciated.
Yeah, we'll
if there's
do.
anything that people can do to support that, then like let us know about it.
Yeah.
That'd be.
I mean, Birmingham Voluntary Service Council might be one of those organisations that would like to be in the process of, you know, greater and more informed consultation. So yeah, I'll keep you posted.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? Anything before I move on? Okay, move on to the next one. Okay. Right, I'll give a quick funding update rather than giving sort of an in-depth funding update. I thought you might be interested in some of these. You may already be aware, but some of these funds that are available. The Aviva Community Fund with crowdfunding have applications are now open until the 1st of February, supporting climate action projects. There's a British Ecological Society outreach grants. The applications are now open until the 18th of March, and that is to promote ecological science to a wide audience. Veolia Environmental Trust is due to reopen for applications on the 27th of January, a closing date of 24th of March, and it makes community habitat and biodiversity and environmental improvement grants. There's a Joseph Rowntree Charitable Trust Sustainable Futures Fund, which is looked to develop and promote sustainable low carbon alternatives, and the account registration deadline is 11th of March with an application deadline of 28th of March. Finally, really for kind of organisations which are maybe, or social enterprises in particular, or which sort of straddle SMEs, HSBC have a green SME fund, which is 500 million fund to support businesses with less than a 25 million turnover to transition and thrive in a low carbon economy, and it offers 1% cash back on loans from 1k to help SMEs invest in green activities. They've also launched a sustainability assessment tool. I'm not sure how much that links into their fund or whether you can just use that as a standalone tool, but it might be worth having a look at that. I've not tried it, so I'd just be interested in anybody's feedback. Has anyone got anything else to add on funding that they want to raise, or shall we, that they know about? Okay, we'll move on. You know, happy if you want to put anything in the chat. Oh, Simon's raised his hand. Simon, have you got anything to add?
Just a briefing. The Combined Authority on the 27th of January, I think, are announcing a launch of Green Communities Fund, which is mostly to do with small amounts of money to improve your green space. So I haven't got any other further details, but it should be in their website.
Brilliant. So I will add, if I find it on the website, I'll add it to the minutes of the meeting. Thanks, Simon. Anyone else? Okay. Move on quickly. We kind of started discussing the future programme before, which we've spoken a little bit about fuel poverty today. I don't know if anyone's had a chance to look at it and when you've got any comments on it at this stage, or whether you want to go spend a little bit more time thinking about anything else we could add. Maybe if you put something in the chat, if you think about anything that, or go away and think about that. So, and then the environment and energy awareness calendar. I haven't had any further feedback other than in the meeting on this calendar. If anyone's got anything else they want to add, you're welcome to let us know, and then that can be like updated. As I said, this is a calendar that isn't sort of set in stone, but it's something we can use to promote some of the things, or have spotlights and things. Obviously, I've done the spotlight on big energy saving winter January, and then we could have maybe a spotlight on something else in February. One of the things I've added is for April, which is Green Skills Week. Just go to this page. We've been approached by Speakers for Schools, which is an organisation that links in with employers to get speakers to go into schools, particularly for 11 to 19-year-olds, to talk about various different issues. And one of the things they've approached us with, because they heard about the Environment and Energy Network, is Green Skills Week in April 2022. And they want to do basically like a Green Skills Month, but particularly focusing on a week where we'd have organisations that have the opportunity to go into schools and talk about the green agenda and about green skills. And I wondered whether that was something that anyone would be interested in, either doing independently as organisations or together as a programme this year. I mean, has anyone got any particular thoughts on that? I'll stop sharing this so we can see each other. Would that be something that people would be interested in doing?
I can certainly advertise it. It's worth advertising and promoting.
I realise I've put everyone on the spot a little bit with this, and it might be something they want to go away and think about. But
yeah, no, happy to promote it, share the information.
Simon,
we'd be again happy to promote it. One of the projects we're working on at the moment, a very small part of it is to either find an existing careers guidance and promote it, or pull together something. So the feedback we're getting from young people is it's either just being told it's STEM subjects, or it's careers advisors who don't know what the future job market's going to be like. So it's very confusing. What advice would you give a young person who wants a green job when it's so broad, and actually they're going to change their career and job at least 5 or 6 times in their lifetime? So we are interested. We're not skills experts. We want to know, is there something off the shelf we can just point people towards, or another organisation really? But it is increasingly coming up in schools. The career service is not geared up for it, and I don't think many people are, to be quite honest.
Can I say something on it, Liz? Because
yeah.
I was in the meeting that we had. I think what was interesting for me was, as much as it was potentially about talking to youngsters around careers and what I think it was as much as that. It was about basically anybody who is really passionate about the subject of environmentalism being able to talk to those youngsters, many of which don't really understand the agenda, or indeed do, but want to just understand it further. So I think on the one hand, it's actually how the group might be able to sort of do something that's very much in that sort of, as they describe it, work experience mode, and they have a very broad understanding of work experience, including just coming along and doing a talk. to the youngsters. But I think what also came out of it was very much, you know, the extent to which you as specialists and specialists with a passion around this subject can be talking to youngsters. So I think it gives that sort of platform in which to actually influence youngsters at an early age who may become, you know, people working for your organisations in the future by virtue of initial discussion that they heard any of you talking about. That's how I would couch it.
I was just going to say, I mean, so we run a furniture reuse project, which is green skills, but actually it's admin, it's finance, it's actually really just normal jobs done in done for a different organisation. And I think for many youngsters, they think, oh, green agenda, that's got to be something special. I think lots of adults think it as well.
Yeah.
Whereas actually, it's more about who are you working for, and if you've got a passion for the environment, then find an organisation that also has the passion, and take your skills, whether it's accountancy, finance, whether it's admin, whether it's selling, whatever it is, and work in that arena. I think is probably that's how I would see it, and I would want young people, especially, not to think I can't go into that because I don't have that set of skills, because actually it's the same set of skills as is required for any business environment. They've just got to find their way through, and perhaps, you know, we could go along, we could chat to them. I think probably more informal groups would be really useful, so that the kids can just have a conversation, and then maybe we could look at offering up work experience places, so that they can see that actually going into an environmental organisation might not be quite so weird and wonderful as they think it is. It's actually just, because that's the other thing, if they think it's going to be all this really exciting stuff, to be quite honest, a lot of it isn't. It's just the same as any other business. And so I think you don't want to sort of over-egg that end of it too much, because otherwise they get into that and then they go, actually, this is just administration, or this is just finance, or this is just answering the phone, or I could do this anywhere.
Yeah.
And you don't want them to feel disappointed about that either. So I think personally, I think it'd be brilliant to just inspire them to, and maybe even to think of things they might be able to do.
Simon, you've got your hands up.
I think that's a really, really good comment about not overselling the sector. And the other comment I would make is actually, I'd like a lot of young people not to come work for the voluntary sector, but to go and work in government, go and work in finance, and go and work in large companies with an environmental conscious to unlock things. Actually, it would be a complete disaster if we have loads of people going to the voluntary sector, because that's useful, but that's not where some of the power is. So, you know, let's provide them jobs, but also if they've got a passion, like you're saying about accountancy, you know, imagine 20% of the treasury getting environment. It would change this country overnight. So yeah, I think we need to not oversell our sector, but try and encourage them to look at other places as well.
Okay, so if anyone's interested in this, then let us know in particular, or you can go directly as well to Speakers for Schools. If you want to just explore that further, I can provide you with some more information, which I'll send out with the minutes going forward. So has anyone got any other questions before I move on?
Well, on the green skills, there was an email there, a contact, Palvinder Dulai.
Yeah, so we had a meeting with her. So Ray and I had a meeting with her last week about this, and she wanted us to bring it to the network.
Can you give me a full email address, please? I didn't quite get all of it.
Yeah, so I'll be sharing the presentation afterwards, so you'll
cool.
So you'll have that. Yeah, totally, and some other resources that they're providing. Okay, Simon, you got your hand up? Is that a redundant hand or is that a new hand? Oh, redundant hands. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
It's all right. I'll share where we are with the. Okay, so going back to this, because I kind of missed this out. I raised last time, though we ran out of time, about whether we should have a Birmingham Environment mini race impact summit. to do with the environment, along with other themes, mini race impact summits across the city. I think Jules might have put his hand up to be involved. Is anyone else thinking that is something they would like to do or to be involved in organising? Then let me know. Has anyone got anything that they want to say about it now, or do you want to go away and think about it a bit more?
Elizabeth, I have made a pledge to the Institute of Environmental Management and Assessment to be active around this, because they have a project called the Diverse Sustainability Initiative, and so I would be quite happy to contribute some time to this in some way.
I mean, I would sort of caveat for those who weren't at the last meeting, I cannot coordinate this because I'm coordinating a Birmingham Voluntaries, the whole Birmingham Voluntary Community Faith and Social Enterprise Sector Mini Race Impact Summit. So I'll be looking for someone particular to lead that going forward, though I am willing to kind of support you as much as I can, but I can not like take the chair or take the lead on it because of capacity issues with organising the general one. If that's okay, before anyone like jumps in and says they're going to get involved. But I can bring you all together, and the people who said that they would want to be in like an initial meeting, so you're all linked in together, if that helps.
Yeah.
Brian, you've got your hands up. Sorry.
Yeah, Canwim would be interested in participating, collaborating. That sounds good, and I guess the first task is to get a really good representative body together to work on it. It's a really good idea. So yeah, we're interested.
Great. Simon?
Similar to Phil, we've signed up to the Institute of Environmental Management Diversity campaign as well. We'd be happy to contribute. A bit nervous, as you said, about understanding really what the task is and what you need. So yes, happy to help, not necessarily putting our hand up at the moment to chair. But if we understood what the format is, what you need out of it, and is it representation you're needing, or is it engagement with different groups, those sort of things. But yeah, interested. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? I've still got Phil, and Phil's got his hand up still. Is that
That's
a new hand? Legacy hands. Okay. Right. Well, you're welcome to, if anyone else wants to jump in later, there's no it isn't cut off now. So if you thought go away and think about it, then let us know and we can get something together to kind of move forward on that. Right. Go back to the PowerPoint. Okay, so future dates. I haven't heard from anyone that these dates are no good. Are they okay with everybody? Should I just take it as read that they're okay and we'll run with them? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take that as a yes. So let me know if otherwise. I can't see you all, sorry. So and then in terms of news, so on the 25th of January, there's a People for Public Services forum, opportunity to have your say on adult social care priorities for 2022. And the Director of Adult Social Care, I'd like to hear about people's views on what they think is important when they're thinking about City Council priorities. And one of those priorities is a bold green Birmingham. So if you've got any ideas for how adult social care should be contributing to that priority, then you might want to attend that event. Another event is happening on the 31st of January at 7 p.m. The Birmingham COP26 Coalition is organising an event on climate jobs. What are they and how to get them? And I think there's a book launch. So if you're particularly interested in the skills agenda, that would be a good one to attend. I think as far as I'm understanding, these events are free, but there's links there for further details. I've mentioned previously about healthy food city workshops that are happening throughout January and February. There's still opportunities to get involved in that. I'm going along to one on Friday. So if you want to and interested, then follow the link there with more details. Then there's been a request from Danielle, who unfortunately couldn't join this meeting because she couldn't get in, on people looking for volunteers to be involved in organising a climate justice festival for Northfields in particular. So if you want to know more about that, please contact her, and these are her contact details, and she'll provide more information. And then just kind of a reminder that we've got event pages at BVSC for any sort of general events that are happening, to kind of keep your eye out for those. Right.
Liz, before you move on,
yeah,
just to say that, and I think it was Brian that raised the issue about what is Breathe. So you've just made reference to Breathe. I just want to make sure that's clear. Whilst the webinar has been going on, Danielle has been trying to join the meeting in order to sort of promote the actual event that you've just referred to. And I was endeavouring to actually put into the actual chat the links that she gave in relation to it. Now, there's one other document that she sort of shared with us, that I was trying to again put into the actual chat, but it's not doing so at the moment. And it basically explains what Breathe is completely. So we'll ensure that you do get that information, so that if you want to know more about Breathe, and indeed she's very much looking for support in terms of that event in February, and that's the point that she particularly makes in terms of volunteers and so on. But we can get that information to people after this particular session.
Brilliant. Anyone got any more questions before we move on? Okay, so right, we've only got a quarter of an hour, unless you want to sort of run over it. Giving you an opportunity really now to talk about what your organisation is delivering in terms of environment and energy, and if there's anything that you're now doing or planning you'd like support from others with, or anything you'd like to know more about. I will come out of this presentation now so I can see you all and you can see me, and so that will help us to have this conversation. So I'll probably start with people who've not joined us previously, if that's okay, so they've got an opportunity to say something. So I'd like to welcome Angela from Birmingham Community Health Care Charity to sort of look a little bit about what you're doing, and if there's any particular areas of interest connected to this that you are interested in, if that's okay.
Hello everybody, thank you for coming to the meeting. We are trying to improve the environment in our NHS hospital space, but we're at the very, very, very beginning of it. So that was our that's our environmental sort of contribution really. And I don't know anything about it, so I've been really interested to hear what you've got to say today. Thank you.
Has anyone got any comments that they have for Angela on that?
Yes. I think the one thing I would say, Angela, is that you're doing the right thing by thinking about environmental issues now, because what normally happens, and I've said this before in previous meetings, is that people do stuff to their building and then think about environmental issues after, and they've missed opportunities. You know, this, and by the way, apologies for being late, because this morning I was out on a site visit and advising a Birmingham-based charity on environmental issues, and it, you know, multiple missed opportunities because they've done stuff to their building and haven't thought about the environmental impact at the very beginning. They've done stuff to the building, and then someday somebody's had an idea, let's do something environmental to the building, and by then opportunities have gone. So there is stuff I can do with them, but there's stuff, you know, almost everybody that contacts me in whatever capacity for help on energy and issues, there's always a bit of me that says, I wish you'd contacted me 6 months ago. I mean, I don't say that to people, but I'm always thinking it. So yeah, now is a good time to be thinking about it.
Sorry, Phil, and they might not be aware of what organisation you're working with. Can you sort of explain?
I think I'm representing Community Energy Birmingham today, but I have other hats. I do some work for Eco Birmingham and for myself. But basically, I advise householders, businesses, community organisations, including, I think it's fair to say, BBSC, on reducing the environmental impact of their buildings and wider sustainability operations, and also involved in setting up energy advice programs like the Birmingham Fuel Poverty Alliance. Yeah. So basically, people ask me to solve energy-related problems, and I sort of solve them, and sometimes I get paid for them as well. You know, you can, but it's easy. You know, there's various funded projects around. I mean, what I would like to see is a program where in Birmingham where community organisations can get support from whoever. It doesn't necessarily have to be me, but expert support on environmental issues in their building at not necessarily free, but at a subsidised cost, especially small organisations that maybe don't have the money. The way that Footsteps are doing with Faith Buildings at the moment, which is, you know, helping people that maybe couldn't afford to pay otherwise for expert advice.
Thank you, Simon.
Oh yeah, just very briefly, you might want to contact Sustainability West Midlands, because a couple of years ago they ran a good practice network for NHS trusts. Yeah. So they might have some contacts there of NHS colleagues who are still around who you could contact or learn from. So if you just went through the info at contact at Sustainability West Midlands, they might be able to point you in the right direction.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else before we move on? Okay, Brian, you're new to the group. Do you want to introduce yourself and?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Brian, I do some work for Climate Action Network West Midlands, and I'm involved with the COP26 Coalition West Midlands as well. And you know, in collaboration with others, we have run and continue to run a number of campaigns. Fare free public transport. We've been trying to raise awareness about the positive impacts of fare free public transport. We've been engaging with the council for the last 2 years in helping them to develop their climate action plan, and we're now engaged with the West Midlands Combined Authority, as I said before, trying to encourage them to be more ambitious. And we've had a schools project, so we do a number of things. I've put we have a website, if anyone was interested, go on to the website, and we have an email account as well, and we produce a newsletter. So if anybody wanted to know more about what we do and keep up to date with us, you can sign up for the newsletter. I'll put it into the chat.
Thank you. Phil, is that a new hand or a redundant hand? A redundant hand. Okay, so who else have we got here? So Chris Crean, are you okay to, if there's anything you want to raise about what you're doing and who you are?
I'll just say here quickly, my name's Chris. I'm a regional campaigner with Friends of the Earth, based on Allison Street, just around the corner from BBSC, doing a lot of the stuff that Brian was just outlining. And I think that the important thing to note from an earlier introduction by Elizabeth was yesterday's report, I think, highlights just how much we have to do on these topics. And I think that the meeting on the 31st of January about green jobs, and most importantly, I think in 2022, we are going to need to seriously think about how we enable people to deal with the impending fuel crisis and energy price crisis. And one of the ways that that's going to happen is by enabling them to have more efficient homes. But that won't happen quickly enough for them to be able to be saved from what could be financial dire straits. And I think that's going to be a big political issue for 2022.
Okay, thanks. Has anyone got anything they want to add to that, or should we move on?
Yeah, just one Can you hear me?
Yep.
I mean, Chris, do you want to say something about the monthly regional West Midlands meetings?
I can do, Brian. Yes, we have a regional meeting every second Tuesday that anybody is welcome to join if you want to join in.
Yeah, it's great.
Okay, thanks. So Gaynor, are you okay to give an update?
Apologies for the camera being off. It is now on, but it might only be brief. My whole internet keeps dropping every time I put a camera on at the moment, so if I suddenly vanish. Sorry to say, I haven't actually made much progress since our last meeting, so thank you to everybody who offered support last time. I will be in touch. But we've had a bit of a COVID crisis at Serval, and we're sort of fighting it at the moment. I've got key staff were hospitalised just before Christmas. I've got outbreaks on all our units at the moment. So I'm afraid all my projects have taken a little bit of a back burner at the minute. But I will be back in the room, hopefully in the next couple of months. Okay.
Thank you. Well, if you know where we are if you need any sort of further information or advice.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Laura, you okay to say something about who you are and where you're from? What you're doing?
Yeah. Hello. So again, we're kind of here. I'm from Midland MenCap, and I'm here for pretty much the same reasons as Angela, which is kind of learning and going forward, kind of from a greener perspective. We've got kind of a fairly big size operation across Birmingham and the region, so there's lots of opportunity for us to just become greener within the kind of social care sector. Off the back of the last meeting, I did, somebody suggested contacting the Sustainability West Midlands. I did that. They've come back with a load of suggestions around how we can improve or the things that we need to consider when looking at our refurbishments, which is great. They've also just opened their competition for years free membership, which I'm entering. So hopefully that will help us as well. So it's just learning for me at the moment, but you know, even from the last meeting, I feel like we've made a few small steps. So thank you.
Great. Has anyone got anything to add to that, or should we move on? Okay. New starts.
I guess, I mean, we haven't really got much more than we do what we do, which is collect furniture and reuse it. We have just applied to John Lewis's. I don't know if you know, they were doing a grant around the circular economy. There's £1 million. It's about, well, I think it's about research. So we've applied to do some research on how you engage the general population in the circular economy, especially the group of people who may not really see that they're part of it and what the messaging might be. So I'm not particularly hopeful, to be honest. I'm sure there are bigger organisations jumping in there trying to get a bit of the money, but we've put in for that because we just think that actually it's quite difficult for people to understand even what the circular economy is unless you're constantly surrounded by it, and I don't think people really get it. So that we've done that, and if we get the money, the project will start in May, which will be wonderful. And then I'll probably be coming and knocking on your door saying, could I do some research questions with you? We'll have some researchers from either Aston or Birmingham University doing some work around that. But that's sort of where we are. If we don't get the money, we would still like to do some research around how people view themselves as environmentalists or not, as the case may be, and how they engage, but we'll just have to work out how we do that sort of amongst ourselves rather than engage in some nice expensive researchers to do it for us. But yeah.
We have got a research team at BVSC. I don't know if that would help at all.
It might do, yeah. I mean, we might even be able to engage some of them if we get the money, so we might be able to pay some money to BVSC. See, that would work for us as well.
Can we know some young people as well, part of the Youth for Strikes climate group, who would be interested in opportunities like that as well? They've done some work for us before.
Brilliant, that'd be good.
Okay, anyone else got any comments for that before we move on to someone else? Okay, Alicia. Still there? Still there? Where's she gone? Alicia? Well, maybe we move back to her if she's not there. So Phil. Phil's gone, I think. Simon. Is Phil there?
I am here, but
oh, you are there.
Just to say that Community Energy Birmingham is now employing somebody, Carla Ricalde, who is specifically looking for large-scale solar projects in Birmingham, and she is also coordinating a new project that offers home energy advice to householders. So look out. I think we'll probably ask BBSC News to feature that when it's open for bookings.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. Anyone got any comments on that?
That's it from me.
Okay, Simon.
No further comments at this stage, thank you.
Have you got anything to say about Eco Birmingham?
I think, yeah, lots, but I think we're going to send a newsletter out, and there's stuff in the other bit. So it's cycling and all sorts of things going on at the moment.
Okay. Is Alicia still there? Alicia? From CET? No, it seems like not. Okay, Ray, have you got anything that you want to say to anyone?
Yeah, for those who are attending for the first time today, just so that you know, I do a similar webinar on employment and skills. And indeed, notwithstanding some of the very useful comments that's been made about the sector and, you know, wanting people with the passion for green economy and so forth in other sectors, that's absolutely right. But we have actually done sessions in our employment skills webinar around, you know, the green economy and so on, where it's appropriate that there are jobs. And given the comment was made earlier on about, you know, the issues to come in relation to fuel poverty and so on, I still think that, you know, where there may be jobs to actually support people around sort of energy use and so on, we would want to encourage that with a number of providers who are supporting people to get into jobs. So we've done a session before. Phil did a great session for us on this topic, but I suspect there'll be a usefulness of doing something again in order to take that forward further in terms of jobs. And I'm very mindful of the event on I think you said the 31st of January, that I think I'll attend and understand that to see whether there's anything that comes out of that might be useful to be included in the employment skills webinar going forward. And I guess the 2 points I would make finally in relation to that is that we're starting the webinar again after a Christmas break next week, Wednesday. And indeed, the topic we'll be discussing next week is apprenticeships. So if you are, as an organisation, been thinking about apprenticeships, want to know more about apprenticeships and so on, we've got a guy called Lee Cuttermole from West Midlands Combined Authority, who actually lead on the apprenticeship hub for the region, who will be coming to talk to people about basically apprenticeships, giving an update in relation to that and the whole process as to how one can actually get an apprentice working for your company, organisation, business, etc. That's it.
Okay, great. Is there anyone that I've missed that's not had a chance to say anything before we finish off? Or anything that anyone else wants to say? Okay, I'll take that as a no. Thank you for everyone who came along today.
There is. Sorry, I thought you had any other business.
Okay, there wasn't any other business. Right? Has anyone got any other business?
Yeah, I've got one. Growing this network. Have we given any thought as to how you might grow this network?
Yeah, I mean, I think a part of it is, you know, making links with, you know, more organisations that be aware. We're also wanting, because it's not just for environment and energy organisations, this is also for the wider voluntary community sector. So as more people get to know that this is happening and the impact on it, we want to see more of that happening as well, not just the traditional organisations. And I think part of it is reliant on all of us, not just me, to get the word of mouth out there about, you know, what this network is and who is involved and what we can do. And I'd appreciate any support or any thoughts on that.
Well, I'm not able to do this myself at present, but I did wonder about making contact with housing associations and with residents associations. I mean, there's a lot of issues around about fuel poverty and, you know, heating homes and all the rest of it. I mean, I don't know how effective they are, but I would think there are a number of residents associations in Birmingham. It might be worth getting in touch with them to just finding out how active they are. Similarly, housing associations as well. You know, I mean, some of them might not be interested, but some of them might be. I just think it's an opportunity. But like I said, you know, I haven't got time myself at the moment to find out where these housing and residents associations are, but it's worth thinking about.
Yeah, thank you. We were going to have someone who said that they would come along from a housing association today, but then they were unwell, so they weren't able to join us, but they are interested. So perhaps exploring that aspect of them with them sort of more as well would be good. But the resident associations, that's a good call as well.
And Sustrans as well. Have you been in touch with Sustrans? I mean,
yeah, they have signed up to this, but they were unable to attend today's meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, so there are a number of people who are on the list, and they like kind of look at the recordings afterwards, but they're not always able to come to every single meeting.
Because it's really good. I've been quite impressed with the amount of information and how up to date it is. So it's really good. Well done.
Thank you. Yeah, and also this is your network, so if there's any time that anyone thinks there's anything else they want to hear about in particular or want to have more information on, then feel free to always drop me a line and I can see what we can do to arrange for someone to come along and speak.
Okay, cool.
Okay, is there any other business before we finish? No, okay, well, thank you very much everyone for attending. I'll be writing up the minutes of the meeting and sending them out to everyone, and again they'll also be posted on the BVSC website. Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Cheers.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.